So we premiered this, as I said, at SoCap a couple months ago, and for that we recorded a two-way interview with Napoleon, which we'll play now. So it was sort of the after film discussion we recorded before the discussion. That's the reason why he says hello to SoCap. Let's just jump right back into that, Isaac, for a few minutes. Hello, Napoleon, and welcome to SoCap. You've got a lot of friends here, but give a shout out to all the folks in the room and let them greet you as well.
Hello, SoCap.
Let's start with your name. In the film, Eddie says you knew you could change the world. There's another historical Napoleon who also wanted to conquer the world. A coincidence?
My Napoleon is a family name. I don't hear it much in the world, but at the minor family reunions, I am only one of four.
Okay, and then the other thing is about the voice. I think people will be curious. It was really important, I think, in the film that the narration be in your voice, and it's your words, and you're using a text-to-voice program. Actually, there's two. There's the one now with the iPad that you're using, but then also in the film, an AI-generated voice. How do you sound to you?
You might notice that I sound a little different. Please don't be intimidated. While I may sound like artificial intelligence, I promise I'm not that smart. I speak through a device, so if you need me to repeat anything, just let me know.
Let's just jump right in. The subtitle of the film talks about the reconstruction of Black wealth. I've been fascinated by the historical Reconstruction, but what does Reconstruction mean today, and why is it resonant?
Reconstruction, in my mind, represents a time in American history when we were striving to correct the deep divides that had torn the country apart. Reconstruction embodied a national effort to heal and move forward by expanding the electoral, educational, economic, and social opportunities available to all Americans, particularly the newly freed slaves. Today, I believe we face similarly troubling divisions. To overcome them, we will need a new kind of Reconstruction, one that invests deeply in our communities and institutions to build a more united, healthy, and prosperous future.
One more thing, the video flicks at the Wilmington coup of 1898. I know that's known history in North Carolina, I think somewhat less so outside of the state, but it ended this period of multiracial fusion power. Is that kind of coalition or alliance possible right now?
I believe so. This shared vision brought together a diverse coalition of wealthy abolitionists, newly freed Black Americans, poor white sharecroppers, and indigenous peoples. There's immense power and potential in building a coalition that includes both the historically privileged and the most marginalized, working together toward a common goal of inclusion and shared prosperity.
In the video, Micah talks about your marriage and your ongoing dialogue around dismantling racist structures on the one hand, and then enabling access to capital and entrepreneurship on the other. How do you put it all together in a strategy?
I would begin by noting that race itself is a form of capital, deeply rooted in ownership, which ties our nation's history and understanding of wealth, economy, and race in persistent and unnatural ways. That being said, color me a capitalist, because I believe in markets and, more importantly, in equitable access to them as the cornerstone of both economic and social mobility. While the factors of production may look different today, the core ingredients, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, remain essential for creating products and generating profit. Unfortunately, when both the U.S. Constitution and Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations were written in 1776, the role of the entrepreneur, along with the wealth creation and enablement, was accessible to only a small, predominantly white and predominantly male segment of the population. Since then, we've been on the long, uphill climb to expand access to the ownership economy to all and remove the dangerous presuppositions of race, gender, and wealth as indicators of entrepreneurial talent.
Folks will soon hear more about another project we've been working on together, which I'm very excited about. We've called it Metrics Madness. We had first session last year, and we're gearing up for a second round. You've been on a quest for an interoperable measure for social impact. You're betting on something called eQualities, quality adjusted life years. What's all that about?
I believe that measuring years of life is about as objective a measure of impact as we can get. It cuts to the core of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you really think about it. This might be a hot take, but I'd even go as far as to say that financial capital is merely a proxy for the quality and duration of life we can expect from any given activity. I believe that a universal, convertible metric for impact like this brings us closer to answering the key question: is your company profiting more than it produces? This is the crux of the externality loophole that is holding our economy in a state of perpetual adolescence.
Externality loophole. Let's dig in on that. You've said that profitable negative externalities are the rot at the core of the economy. What do you mean by that, and how do we root them out?
I believe that the loophole of profitable externalities, which allows companies to profit beyond what they actually produce, is the single largest driver of social and environmental spillover by corporations. Their ability to harm for profit exemplifies the worst cases of free-riding and rent-seeking behavior in today's economy. It incentivizes destructive, short-term profit engines that fuel a culture of extractive finance and shareholder primacy. This can't be countered by products and coalitions alone. What's truly needed is a new, compelling way to rethink the natural order of our economy and the role companies should play within it. I've even started to wonder if it would be more effective for all companies to aim for zero environmental and social spillover, rather than having only a few create strong positive impact, while others exploit the externalities loophole.
And just to close it out here, Napoleon, I think one thing folks might be thinking when they see the film and when they see you is, can you really see ALS as a gift?
ALS is a knee-buckling diagnosis, no doubt, but it has also given me the gift of clarity and urgency. Of course, it has been hard in so many other ways, but regarding my work of social change, it has forced me to prioritize what truly matters and enabled me to see the remainder of my career, however long it may be, through a lens of deeper purpose. The illness has sharpened his focus, given me motivation, and made every moment that much sweeter on the transformative impact he can make, despite the physical challenges.
I don't know if folks know that you're now a contributing editor to ImpactAlpha, and we're excited to have you on the case.
Hooray!
And part of our circle as well. So from California to North Carolina, there's a strong thread. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay, back to real life here, and real time. Thank you, Napoleon, and thank you all. Uh, Invariably running late, and we have a few friends here to introduce, and just say a few words. And so we're going to be sort of quick, and I apologize for that. And we can meet all these folks in other ways later. But Brittany, you helped with tremendous help with the film, and many good conversations while we were working on it. And one story you told me that just made me realize what it's all about was your grandmother, and maybe you could share that very briefly.
Yeah, thanks, David. Happy to be here with you all today. So, yeah, one of the things Napoleon and I connected on over the decade that we've known each other at this point really is that a lot of our drive and a lot of our vision for the work that we do comes from our family and watching people we love and the people who raised us be entrepreneurs. For him, you saw his dad in the film. For me, it was my grandmother. It was also my great-grandfather who was alive for much of my young life. And yeah, I think watching my grandmother operate a hair salon for a long time and have clients for decades told me the power of working for yourself, of being able to kind of chart your own course in that way, but it also showed me the power of ownership when she came to the opportunity to purchase her building that she had been renting for a long time, and what that meant for our family, her being able to pass that down, her being able to leverage that asset. And so as I dug into my work in community and economic development, impact investing spaces, really rooting on what I learned from watching my family. And so that's a thing that Napoleon and I have connected on over the years. Yeah.
Terrific. And you worked with Napoleon at Self-Help, and then later in other regards as well. And I think in the film you say he was your big brother.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just maybe introduce the work that we might be doing together in the months to come. And Napoleon queued it up in the interview about this metrics madness and the contributing editor role. So in January, we're launching and possibly sort of second part of January launching this metrics madness contest, as it were. We'll tell you more about it, but firms will be able to put themselves through a kind of evaluation. So there'll be a whole ladder and a final four and a Sweet 16 and all the rest. And then also Napoleon is launching his column in ImpactAlpha as a contributing editor. So there'll be a little bit about that. There were some questions in the chat about whether we're going to show this. We're not going to be able to show the video itself. We can show the conversation, the discussion, because we're trying to enter in a bunch of film festivals and they have restrictions on how much it can be screened beforehand. So we're trying to get into various film festivals, and we'll have various other showings with some partners that are developing. And then we're hoping that culminates in April in Durham, where there's a film festival called Full Frame Film Festival that we're hoping to be in. And so if it all comes together, we'll be in Durham in very early April all together, and do some good things, possibly at UNC Flagler, and with all of you. So we're looking forward to that. Just say a little bit about what it's like working with Napoleon now. I think people will be interested in that.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I've called Napoleon my professional big brother for a long time, and I think he was resistant to that term for many years until probably the last couple. I think it finally settled. But for me, Napoleon has always sort of encouraged my creative thinking when it comes to my work and when it comes to thinking about closing the racial wealth gap and building wealth and ownership in Black communities in particular. And I'm just incredibly grateful. I think I wouldn't be on the path that I'm on, which I don't think we have enough time to talk about that windy road to get here. But if it weren't for Napoleon and his encouragement. So it's just always deep conversations. I can think of many car rides thinking about, what would a world look like if people had all of their needs met and capital wasn't as big of a concern? What are the things that people could create? What are the things that people could contribute? And I think about that as the basis for a lot of how I think about creating more access to capital and ownership opportunities for folks and building sustainable businesses and sustainable organizations. So encouragement and creativity and collaboration. That's how I would sum it up.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Brittany. Keith Beverly, you also people met you in the film as well, and I know you have been working all together with a number of folks on the call, but around something called Good Trouble, or TRBL, and we've been sort of framing what might be called the North Carolina model for sort of collaboration, and I think Good Trouble is kind of at the center of that. And just maybe tell us a little bit of what you did. I was very taken with the meeting you had right after the election to kind of regroup and figure out what the path ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the idea with Good Trouble is to see how can we start to mobilize North Carolina capital around the idea of closing the racial wealth gap. And the focus has been on investing in fund managers of color that A lot of them have proximity to many of the issues that are inflicting, that are ailing communities of color. And the idea being that can we take capital that's currently being deployed, in many areas that might not be being deployed currently in North Carolina, and deploy those funds with managers of color that are here in the state, and across different asset classes. So we're looking at venture capital as well as real estate and private equity, and even some angel investments as well.
Terrific. And re-envision wealth is your entry in this, and just briefly, what's that?
Yeah, so our firm, we're a Black-owned wealth management firm. We predominantly work with households of color that we consider emerging professionals, so high-income households, doctors, lawyers, and the like. We also work with high net worth families that are very passionate about this notion of a more inclusive society, particularly how it affects, households of color. So, for us, we, have five team members right now. We really want to bring this family office model to, not only the very wealthy, which a few of our clients are, but also the folks that are fairly early on in their wealth journey and accumulating, their building out their balance sheets and accumulating wealth.
Got it. Lots of resources to be mobilized there. And I would just flag folks on, if you know Santos Ramdos from Gary Community Ventures, has a good post on LinkedIn this morning about a Colorado network of funders that's coming together in a similar kind of way. And I think there's these kind of state-based models. We're very keen on that as something that'll be interesting to watch in the years ahead. Again, sorry for the time, but thank you, Keith. And I think both Wilson and Talib, I don't know, maybe Talib dropped off, but Wilson, you're here. And Partners in Equity has been one of the examples that people are using as a way of building wealth. Wilson, take yourself off mute there. I was going to ask you about this equity. It's in your name. It's in the name of the film. Napoleon calls it out as the key ingredient, equity, more than debt. But just tell us about what importance of ownership in building equity.
Right, and I do want to acknowledge that Talib is on.
Oh, okay.
But this has been a very interesting conversation, and it's also been very interesting in the chat. And in fact, one of the folks watching the webinar pointed out that the design of debt really is positioned from a standpoint of superiority, and equity in the form of capital is empowering. And those that have access to liquidity and equity are empowered to be able to make decisions that those that can only form debt in there can't make. And what we want to do is we want to provide an opportunity to those individuals, those entrepreneurs that don't have wealth circulating in their families, don't have wealth circulating in their networks, or haven't gotten to a position where they can pull the kind of capital necessary out of their business to create the wealth opportunity of ownership, have that in us. The majority of businesses that are operating in low wealth communities are service-based businesses that are cash intensive, maybe operating well, but just can't pull that capital out to make that type of decision, opportunity, a reality. And we want to ensure that folks understand that there is an opportunity in investing in entrepreneurs, acquiring commercial real estate, and that Partners in Equity is the model to make that happen. And I'll pause my comments there in case Talib wants to respond as well.
Yeah, please do, Talib. And
yeah, well, thanks, Wilson. Wilson did a good job of describing what Partners in Equity is. And I just want to thank Napoleon and David. This is the blackest thing I'm probably going to do for the rest of the year. It's just so great to see all of these brilliant Black minds here doing the work. And it's just kind of a reminder of one of my initial conversations with Napoleon when I was trying to figure out what to build. And he said, the most valuable things are when you build things that are proximate to you. And it's just, I think, as I think about the collective impact of our work, I think that these solutions are built because of the genius and the proximity to things that need to change and improve as a common denominator here.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for making the space.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to piggyback on that, i.e., approximate to us. Talib has worked for years in real estate, as a real estate owner, commercial real estate broker, and commercial property owner. Napoleon and I have both worked very closely in the debt space and offering entrepreneurs capital that way, and figuring out structures where organizations can provide that type of needed capital, which will always be necessary to business. But we also understand that it is extractive and it is necessary to repay that capital within 30 to 60 days after borrowing that capital. And how long is the horizon that money is actually effective in those organizations before it makes significant difference? So having folks that understand that, and that side of the coin, be able to identify capital that is a little bit more patient, is extremely important, and that's really helped define our thesis.
Yeah, yeah, and just to take that, to put an underliner below that, I think one of the most provocative things in the film is Napoleon's discussion that impact investing has largely failed to deliver the results particularly in low income and Black and brown communities. And I think that going forward, we might say that a measure of really impact has to be how well, wealth gets, more broadly distributed and more people are able to build it. And if we don't see that, then it's not really impact. And so I think there's a kind of reckoning that's coming, in terms of being able to deliver on these, kind of promises. And I just want to put a point on that it's not all, it's not all happy talk, that there's some real work to be done here to make this all real. Thanks to both of you. And then Homero and Activest, Micah Gilmer, who's in the movie as well, was not able to make it today, but you're partnered up with both him and also Napoleon. And there's Activest and there's Next World. And I know we just have a couple minutes, but I know you've just gotten going with Next World and have an exciting new mandate and some interesting projects underway.
Yeah, I mean, it's such exciting work. I'm really, Talib said this, and I think we could all feel this. The level of expansion that being in business, in thought, in process with Napoleon has done for us collectively, but in turn of our organization and the communities we touch is profound and deeply makes me inspired to keep pushing forward to make people's lives easier. So Activist, we did a lot of work in communities just asking us how do we, since we're responsible for all this debt, how do we get it to be used towards what we need as a community in terms of infrastructure and protection and safety and homes and health? And so through that work, we've seen ways that there's lots of places where we can have equitable investments through infrastructure and through municipal finance, but that's just not happening. And so our work has been to push, to understand, to help communities analyze how could our money be put to better use to make lives easier and better and more fruitful and create thriving communities. And then through that work, we have been able to launch an RIA, which just launched 2 months ago, called Next World Assets. And clients have given us investments to try to put some of that analysis to work, to figure out where are places where we can invest in birthing centers and clean water and improve home ownership, and how to do that through the municipal bond market and through infrastructure investments. And so, yeah, we're excited to get underway. We've seen some interesting social bonds and investments that we do think is starting to make an impact. So we're excited for, was it March metrics? We're going to get involved. So it'd be great. Thank you all for having me.
Terrific, thank you. And we'll be tracking along with that. And as Kimberly said earlier, this whole muni and public finance track has been super interesting for us to dig into. And you guys have been a great teacher and mentors in that. So thank you for that. I do want to get a moment with Cedric. I had the great pleasure being, education, let's call it, being sent down to Wilmington by these friends in Durham to take Cedric's tour of the events of the 1898 coup in Wilmington. And that news and that history was disturbing. But strangely, what I found most interesting was what you said, Cedric, about the thriving Black community before that happened. And that was all the way up to 1898, long after the Reconstruction, the formal Reconstruction that Napoleon talked about was formally over. It was working, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in Wilmington, economics was working at a very, very much so high level to the point that it became threatening to others. And so, as people don't know about the 1898 story, and they should be educated on that specifically. I didn't find empowerment within 1898 story. I found empowerment in 1897, and learning about the 100 plus entrepreneurs that were here in Wilmington, from medical to entrepreneur to legal to finance, to so many other different things. And there's so much that America or the world could still learn from the work that was being done here in Wilmington during that time.
Yeah, and Napoleon touched on it as well, the fusion politics that had brought some of that about, which was a multiracial coalition that held power, you know, the city hall and whatnot in Wilmington, and was and like you said, was overseeing a thriving economy until the militia, the white supremacist militia, came in. There's some attention being paid now. I saw there was a PBS documentary a few weeks ago. Just tell folks if they come to Wilmington how they can meet you and get the tour.
Yeah, so for those that might not have a planned trip to Wilmington anytime soon, you can definitely look at PBS's streaming platform nationally, and there's a new film called American Coup, which we are featured in. Me and also the tour business Wilmington Color. Very honored to do so. But if you are in the Wilmington area or would now be thinking about making a trip here, we would love to host you all. We have I own a mobile museum, I like to call it, or a modern day mobile green book, also like to call it as well. It's called Wilmington Color. We tell people about 1898, the only successful government overthrow to ever be carried out on United States soil. Believe it or not, we've only been in existence for 3 years, and until we started this actual business, there was nowhere in Wilmington where you can go to actually be educated and easily access this information. But not only do we talk about that story, we talk about 200 plus years of rich African-American heritage. So not only just the accomplishments before 1898, but the resilience of the Black community after that. And we also talk about the current community to this day. So we let people know where they can currently go and patronize and give money, or just give support to Black owned and operating businesses around Wilmington in today's time. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of great work. Just got featured in Travel Leisure, Travel Noir, and looking forward to continue to move forward. We have a contract with the university here, but we're in conversations with some of the other universities across the state to make sure that this information now is becoming a little bit more intentional to run into.
Terrific. Well, it's well worth it, and I learned a ton, Cedric. So thank you. We're a couple minutes over, but I want to make sure that Napoleon gets the last word. Also, just to say, as you can see, there's a lot here to unpack. We're feeling our way through how to hold this conversation and use the film as a tool for that. So we're very much open to suggestions for that and invitations and things, and we'll see what we can pull together over the next few months. Napoleon, as folks seem to be saying, it's a pleasure and a privilege to work with you. What do you what can you send us out with?
Thanks. As we move forward, we're inviting you to convene in North Carolina this April to rally around the cause of Reconstruction and collective prosperity. Together, we'll explore pathways to economic mobility, social justice, and political empowerment, building on the powerful legacy of fusion politics. Our campaign calls us to embrace constructive disruption. Inspired by the fight for equity and innovation, we have to challenge systems that fail us while creating new spaces for economic and social resilience. This isn't just a campaign. It's a call for all of us to step into our roles as architects of an equitable future. For economic mobility, we promote local investment ecosystems with priority on Black-owned businesses, cooperatives, and rural entrepreneurship. We explore the transformative potential of universal basic income and community wealth building initiatives. We have to strengthen affordable housing efforts to empower mobility and generational stability. To get at the issue that separates our communities from true political empowerment, we have to reignite the legacy of fusion politics by bridging racial, cultural, and economic divides to advance justice-driven coalitions, equip communities with tools for voter mobilization and civic engagement, and advocate for equitable representation in policies rooted in fiscal justice, transparency, and accountability. My call to action: let's gather this April in North Carolina, a state with a rich history of activism and resilience. Together, we will co-create a roadmap for equitable systems change, share stories and strategies for impactful, scalable solutions, build a movement that uplifts marginalized voices and catalyzes collective action. I am so happy to have this conversation and to have so many amazing friends and work family on this call. I love all of you and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Napoleon. Well, I think there's a lot of love here. There's a lot of love from ImpactAlpha to all of you. This is our last call. We'll convene in January. There's a lot of details to be worked out on this on 2025, but as you can see, we've got a great crew of collaborators, both in North Carolina and around the country and the world. So we couldn't be more honored to be doing this work with you. We hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. And I think we'll call that a day. Thanks so much to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. See you.
Good one, everyone.